Morning, everyone, and welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. My name is Rotimi. It is such a pleasure to be here once again with West Africa to Africa Education Show. If you've not heard about it before, now you're hearing about it. Please tell someone to tell someone that you've seen and the Good Morning Education Show. We've seen the show Mondays to Sundays. Mondays to Fridays, you can catch us 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. West African time. And then on Saturdays, we have the show 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. West African time. However, on Sundays, we have the show from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. West African time. It's always a great pleasure to host the show with you and our amazing analysts. We have analysts and experts who share their views about several topics, about several conversations on several topics. And we always have a great time on the show together. And of course, today will not time also. And as we continue on the show, I'd like to let you know that on the Good Morning Education Show, we have headlines where we take some time to review some of these headlines, and then we'll take a step further, not just to review the headlines, but also to ensure that as we review these headlines, bring the headlines, and then of course we take it and we'll go on and on and on and on to this day. Please, I'd like to encourage you to the videos and also follow our analysts and experts on social media platforms that they belong to. You can with them, and the conversation can continue from there. It's always going to be a profitable conversation. It's also going to be a useful connection for you. On the show, we learn together and we share together because we also want to grow together. This is the Good Morning Education Show, and you are welcome to the show today. And like I said, on the show, we spend time to analyze, time to analyze headlines and all that. Today, we're going to start our headline with one of the news making rounds, and from there, we'll, we'll so the very first tech fund, very first headline is on the fund, and this is saying prioritize industrial training, practical experience, or prioritize industrial training, practical experience for students. This is a headline talking about training and the importance of practical learning and education, especially at the tertiary level. Polytechnics, monotechnics, universities, all these platforms are meant to be experiential and it must be practical. And a lot of people are really clamoring for that because seems like uh, seems like we're not having that yet. So let's just say that yes, that these people have clamored for, and hopefully in the shortest possible time, it's sorted out as well. So, all right. So we move on to the next headline as coming from issues around River State. And then this has to do with River State has been in the news actually. and it says stakeholders decry stakeholders decry poor allocation to education sector as it continues to slide. Of course, Monday was a special day in education where the world was celebrating the International Day for Education. And to be honest, funding is not something that is strange. And when we talk about education, public education to be precise, you know, there must be proper funding. So the issues of allocation, or excuse me, or not, should not even come into the question. You know, it shouldn't come into the question. But we find this as a sad reality in the education world, where a lot of people feel, and not just a lot of people feel, it's actually a reality that is out there. Most people know that the sector is not well funded. And of course, when you are struggling with funding in education, it will trickle down. It will affect every other thing. Sometimes when we complain about things available, complain about things being missing, complain about things absent, and so many things like that, we fail to realize that some of these things are triggered by um, by the unavailable funds. You don't have the resources that should go round, that could go round, that must go round. So these are things that I feel should be worked on appropriately, and we see the best of action, we see the best of outcome within the sector. And I hope that the people that are listening, because it's not just a cliche to talk about the budget in terms of percentage. People are begging that we have more of close to 14%, of the allocation of the country's budget to education. But I think that it must go beyond that. Really, it must go beyond that. People must begin to see things from a very, very, very different perspective, so that we can have better outcomes, for the sector and the nation. And of course, the children are the ones that would really reap from this. So let's quickly move to the next headline. And this is really talking about something from the quarters of NYSC. It says core members will continue to participate in national assignments, says the NYSC Director General. A lot of people are frowned at the the scheme, deploying core members for assignments such as, you know, voting coordination and all those things, and election um, activities, electioneering activities. And sometimes we had the issues where these people have they've gotten into a situation where they are actually put in harm's way. We've had cases where core members have been attacked, um, core members have been harassed, some core members have even died, and it's not something that we should be proud of. But the scheme shouldn't be a scheme that takes out life, because then it defeats the purpose. So we hope that things can be done properly. Because if we're going to use core members, you might as well also guarantee their safety if you're looking at national assignments and the likes. So safety is very important. All right. Now going to another news. This is quite cheery. We're going to look at Green Springs is in the news. Green Springs is in the news. Green Spring students receive IMOC Mathematics Elitist title. That's that's wonderful. That's worthy of note. The Green Spring student has been able to been able to get across, to constantly news for the right things, for the right reasons. Um, well done to Green Springs. And if you look at the 2021 in particularly, we noticed that Green Springs was very, very prominent in national news. They came out tops. They put Nigeria on the map for good things. It shows that they're putting their money where their mouth is pretty much, and we celebrate them. It's not all the time that we crucify schools, but we celebrate, you know, Green Springs for doing the nation proud, doing themselves proud, doing the parents proud, getting people out there to know that indeed greatness is possible, greatness can be achieved. And the thought about it is, what if the school did not even try? And which is actually what we represent when we begin to share, that people should understand that it's an era where we should not embrace limitation for any reason. You know, it's an era where we should appreciate the fact that nothing venture, nothing gain. What if we try? And the school has decided it upon themselves to keep trying, and they're pushing the frontiers. They're making changes. They're doing fantastic things. You know, these are things that I think that the school should be celebrating. Done to Green Springs, and we hope that other schools also would, toe the line, but also not just toe the line. Sometimes it's an issue of showcase. Please tell your stories. We need to hear your stories. The world needs to hear your stories. We would love to hear from you. So Basic Education Act is something that you know people need to know about, and talking about it. Leader is urging the federal government to implement the Universal Basic Education Act. Of course, this is also almost riding on the heels of the previous headline. We're talking about the allocation of of budget, or budget allocation to education. Allocation to education. That sounds nice. All right. Commissioner identifies negative peer influence, other factors militating against students. Well, we all know how this can be. When we talk about influence, peer pressure, talk about social vices, the Commissioner of Education identifies negative peer influence and other factors militating against children. Well, we hope that this is not just something that we are listing out, but we need to understand what effective pastoral care, functional counseling units, um, um, and an inclusive form of kind of education. All this and many more will help, the school and the children, to rise above even some of the challenges like bad, bad influence, peer pressure, and the likes. So hopefully, we believe that this will be sorted out as well. So if you're just joining us, welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. And today we will be talking about another topic that I feel affects everyone. It's a practical topic, and it's not just a walk in the park. I think that we need to address, engage, and importantly, do something about so that uh, we don't making network work today. And while we're going to be talking about network, it's my desire and prayer that the network now, this time around, I mean the internet connectivity, does not give way. Internet work. Join us today. This is what we're talking about today. Um, Most of the time, a lot of people find themselves in a group of association. It's a group of people, an association probably would say that. And while joining this association, there are several things that comes to mind. Right? There are several things that come to mind. The need to how do you put it? There's a need to there's a need to be able to put yourself in a position that that is of leverage, and so many people get into such kind of association and network and try to grab this, grab that, try to scamper for things, and at the end of the day, you find out that a lot of people do not see networking as working. Now, there's the first dimension to networking that almost presupposedly say that you're trying to reach out to people, you're trying to spread your connectivity with people and association of people. But then there's another angle that it's not talking about the entry now, it's talking about the reality. You are in it. You are not necessarily trying to get into it. You're already in it. And you see so many people invest energy, they invest funding, they invest time, they invest effort in getting a network, getting to secure relationship. You see, excuse me. And because they're doing that, at the point of acquisition, everything now just goes down, and that is where sometimes the discrepancies, begins to show. Because if I, as an individual, begin to think about it from one perspective, I'm going to ask myself, okay, how does this work? How will this happen? You know, and so what it takes to get into a friendship, what it takes to get into a relationship, what it takes to get into an association, what it takes to get into a network is not the same thing required to keep it, not to talk of advancing it. You know, so that's really what I think that we need to begin the conversation in. So let's talk about getting into network. Getting into network. I think this is maybe the mod getting into, right, is speaking about you being able to just put yourself in the way. And for you to get into, you must understand that you must be a kind, or better still, you must be their kind. The relationship must have a connect. This is where everyone begins with. You must find a common ground to connect. There must be something that connects us together, that brings us together, that positions us together, that encourages us together. At that point, we now translate from connecting, and then we'll take it a step further And what it simply means is this, that if I can connect with you, you can connect with me to try to get it to work. Must understand that we cannot take away the getting into, right? And now begin to talk about keeping a network. No. How do you connect and get into a network? And the number one thing is to connect. Number two, in getting into a network, I think that it's not just for us to connect, right? There's a big area that sometimes I would say it might also be a pre-qualification, and it affects not just getting into, but it also appears much later. And it's the place of care. I think that one of the things that makes, just like the popular saying, that a lot of people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. When you begin to identify care as a big element and ingredient in getting into a network, you connect, but then you show that you care. You care about the values, you care about the mission, you care about the vision, you care about the requirements of people in that network. That care actually signifies that you are a part, that you are meant to be a part, that you are responsible enough to show that you are a part. Care is not something you second guess. Care is not something you just wish away. Care is not something you take and just belittle. Care is a very important element and ingredient for society, for people getting to manage friendship, for people getting to connect into friendship. Care is important. Now remember, things that we're saying, we're trying to make sure that also this is captured, sorry, is captured in sequence. So you understand that in getting into a network, um, as everyone knows, you must understand that it requires what? Connect. Connect. There must be a connection. The next thing is care. And once we have care, then we can now be talking about communication. We must have that culture of communication. Communication is one thing that makes network a group of individuals, a network of professionals, a network of friends. Communication actually helps to make that network to work. The working of the net, you must have care, you must connect, you must communicate. So many people get into groups, and there's one thing that characterizes them is their silence. It's so deafening, and it's sometimes against the rule of community. Because if you into a place, you must realize community means common unity, and we must have a lot of things that unifies us in common. And one of those things should be communication. KK, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. Good morning, Shorotimi. It's good to be here. Hi, everyone.
Thank you. So we're talking about making network work, and I shared some introductory aspect of this, and also I try to make people understand that when it comes to a network, we need to look at it in the getting into, keeping the network, and then growing the network. And I said that one of the key things that is required of people is that there must be a connect, there must be care, there must be communication. So let's hear from you, KK.
Sorry, absolutely. I do agree with what you've shared. There does need to be that space of, um, it's almost like connection, like you said. If we don't connect, then we really I don't know how we're going to make it work because it's going to be really transactional. And even in the space of transaction, right, uh, there is still connections that need to be made, or people will take advantage of the network. So yeah, I agree 100% with you, Mr. Rotimi, that there has to be that connection. And for me, when I think about networking, I also ask myself, what am I bringing to the table? Because it's not. I believe strongly that what makes it work is when several of us are coming together for a shared purpose, and that's for me, the underlying factor there. It is shared, so we all are contributing to make this work, right? I bring my 10% or 100% or whatever, and somebody else brings theirs, and then we make it work. So there also needs to be, of course, the commitment to making it work. Uh, and commitment comes from when people believe that they are stakeholders and they have something worth preserving. That's what I personally believe, which is why they would say, oh, how can you get employee buy-in? How do you get stakeholder buy-in? So that buy-in is really important. Once people know, oh, there's something here, there's something I'm meant to be doing here. What I found most of the time is they want to make that thing work. So I would, you know, scream it from the rooftops and say, get people connected, let them know that they're stakeholders. Another thing that makes networks work is openness. When we're open regarding what is going on, if it's a network that has financial implications, oh goodness, we need, we need to share those finances from time to time so that people know this is what I paid and this is what the money was used for. So that whole uh, openness with respect to the financials, right? I would say it's really critical, really critical. Whew, then everybody should be given a chance. They're not some sacred cows or golden eggs in a network. Everybody, if it's a network, then because we already said we have a shared vision and a shared purpose, that means I bring my 2 cents. If that's all I have, even if you have 10 cents, but I brought 2 cents, and that's what makes it 12 cents because my two and your two. So let me contribute to the value of my two.
KK, why do I feel you're going to 50 cents? Oh, yeah, getting from 10 cents to 12 cents before you reach 50 cents.
So let me contribute to the value, and let me get the exposure to the value that I contribute, if that is what it's about. But there needs to be guiding principles, to be honest. I think that's what we are really sharing, isn't it? That for every network to make it work, there needs to be guiding principles. These guiding principles must be accessible to all of the members. So they must understand it. They must be able to contribute to what the agreement of it. It's also, I think it's also important that it's almost like there's although everybody, I mean, it's in some places, everybody's like, oh, we're all the same. But one thing I want to believe is that there needs to be that person or those set of people who, if we need to make a conversation, that's the people that we know, oh, you know what, talk to this person. That person can then assign and reassign, and those people are then tasked with the responsibility of not just calling on two people or three people, but calling on everybody. But I truly believe that to make a network work, there needs to be that slight hierarchy, maybe not in terms of me lording it over you, but in terms of, and again, it does come from the structure, right? Of what is everybody doing, who is responsible for what, right? And in that regard, I believe that it would work. But personal commitment needs to be like right on the front burner, or we're not going to be able to make it work. Yeah, back to you, Mr. Rotimi.
Thank you so much. Able to still keep in line with some of the C's, the chance, the contribution, you know, and that aligns with the care, the commitment, the communication, the connect, you know. And the question is, you mentioned something in terms of contribution. I'd like to take you there. I know that you mentioned chance. Chance signifies that everybody should have some measure of, leeway, 10 cents, 12 cents. But then chance concept and also marry it with contribution, right? Why people seek for chance and why it is necessary to create chance. But then the chance is not just for expression, the chance also is for contribution. just like you described the 10 and 12 cents or 2 cents. So, how do we deal with the dilemma where it looks like some people are not ready to lift the burden, and it has to be the weight on the shoulder of contribution. Contribution doesn't only mean financial
I can't.
contribution.
Michelle, to me, I
Can you
can't
hear me?
hear you. It's not very clear. You said, what do we
Oh,
do when
it's
some people are not willing to lift the burden? And then after that, I really didn't
yes.
hear much of that.
Okay, so I'm trying to link it from the issue of chance. So we know that there's a concept of chance and contribution. So how do we get people to be able to say yes? Um, it's not just for a few people to carry, but then when it's time for expression, a lot of people want to have expression. How do we balance that? Because sometimes we find out that well, some people just have to carry the load
Yeah.
in terms of contribution.
Yeah. Yeah. To be honest, Rotimi, what I have found is every network is an organization in itself, right? And in an organization, roles are assigned. You know, and that's where again the structure of the organization comes in and the guiding principles of the organizations come in. People need to be assigned to tasks, right? Because you came in and we found that these are your strengths. Based on your strength, you do need to sign something or agree with something. It's a terms and conditions to say that because of your strength, it means that when we have projects that align with your strength, we will more than likely pull you into that space because that's your strength, and then they need to say, oh, that's okay, I'm all right with that because this is my strength and we have all agreed that I've agreed to do this. uh, that honestly is what I believe, because sometimes if you're waiting for people to take on responsibility, not a lot of people might, because not because they don't want to, but sometimes they're just like, what if I fail at this? And what I have found is that the fear of failure itself
Mm,
doesn't permit people to move forward.
mm,
So since we know that people just don't want to fail and they're not, even if you've said this and this and this are your responsibilities, some people just still don't get it, right? So I would say assign tasks, have a body system. So instead of one person, we can say, oh, these two people can do it together. So that way, it kind of gives people an opportunity to also grow their wings in that regard. Um, and then I guess just letting everybody know that, what, this is a growing organization. You don't have to get it right 100%. When you don't get it right, there's somebody here who's going to be supportive of you. That's why we've bodied you with somebody else. But it's important that not only are we getting people of competency, we're assigning tasks because we also understand the level of their proficiency. So understanding I know I've said quite a number of things, but understanding proficiency levels also helps people know that, okay, if I assign this person task to this person is on a one proficiency, and this task requires a level five proficiency. So obviously the level one proficiency is going to struggle at it, right? Except I pair you with a level three or a level four proficiency, and then that makes it work better. But to be honest, to go assign tasks based on people's competencies and the areas of strength, and then hold people accountable. That's what I would say.
but then, how do you? I would like you to just take a bit of time to dwell on the holding people accountable. What would you counsel to be proven strategies to ensuring that you hold people accountable? And then, should there be conflicts, or
Mm,
should there be the issue of discipline? How do you address that? Especially voluntary organizations,
yeah, because it's
you know,
voluntary.
yeah.
Yeah, but I believe that because the fact that it's voluntary doesn't mean that it should not have proper structure. You know, Rotary and all of those things are all voluntary organizations, right? But then it has become what it is today. So because it's voluntary doesn't mean that it doesn't have guiding principles. And guiding principles should honestly clearly list out what would happen in the case of a misnorm or in the case of a member defaulting, right? Also, it is important that the organization clearly articulates the value for each of its members. When members and people understand the value that they get and the value they would lose just by not being part of that network, even though I don't like the stick and carrot approach, but I found that sometimes it does work. Based, sorry to be laughing. It does work based on where it is that what we're trying to achieve. So that's me saying that in holding people accountable, they need to know what they're accountable for. They also need to understand what they have missed, right? If I'm accountable for something, so if you need to discipline me, why are you disciplining me? Where did I miss it? Some people don't know even what are the expectations really for every task. If you ask me, for example, to say, "Oh, KK, we're going together to go and pitch an education project to the government," right? So I need to understand what's my role in that education project that we're pitching. What are we pitching? And what are my deliverables? So we can all sit down together and agree on the deliverables, and then we are then held accountable to those deliverables because I said I was going to deliver them on them, right? So people need to know what they're delivering, how they're supposed to deliver it, and the consequences for not being able to deliver, right? Especially if it's not if it's unexplainable. I didn't now show up for it, even if we had all agreed. I didn't show up. No, that's not okay, and I need to be disciplined in some way. If I feel that I'm too big for the organization or the organization is not valuable enough for me to really be committed, then why am I there? Right? So organizations need to be able to say, you know what, we're done with this. You we really do not need you here, and know that they can keep going, right? Because not one person makes the organization. It is a collective of several different people. Yeah, so that's what honestly I would say that we do. Of course, in starting, you will want to take some of these things easy and not jump into it at once. But honestly, clarity is so important for me anyway, personally. And just knowing what I'm meant to be doing and how I'm meant to be doing it, who I'm meant to be working with, and the timelines for all of those things are personally really important to me. And there might be somebody else who's like me in that network, and they're just slightly confused because they don't even know what exactly they should be doing. Yeah, back to you, Miss Sarah.
Yeah, when you were speaking, it just got me thinking about so many things because sometimes you kind of feel that you are you are taxed with responsibility to get some people to see the picture because it's not everybody that probably sees things
Yeah,
the same way and the same time. Some people see in part, some people
yeah,
try to figure it out. So
yeah,
sometimes you just can be frustrated, like, don't you get it? Can't you see this? But you just have to take time out to, if we are in this, then we all must be of one voice, one mission, one vision, so that
exactly.
it becomes a lot more successful, and following that, I know that of course people listening um um look at it from the angle of, yes, they are in it already. Well, how do we make network work from the angle of growing it?
From the angle
You
of
know,
growing it.
yes.
Oh, to make it work from the angle of growing it, to be honest, again, I must know what am I going to gain, Rotimi, from being part of your network? Do you understand? We must clearly articulate it. KK, from being part of this network, XYZ network, you're going to gain connections to other people in the organization, a 10% or a 50% reduction in pricing for people in the organization when you need to use the services of Rotimi, for example, who's a strategist, a mentor, a coach. You get a 50% because you're part of the network. You get if you're having an event, you can call on people, draw on people on your network, like I'm going to now, and in the network that I have. You can draw people from your network to say, be part of the event at no cost to them. You're not going to pay them. You can leverage on people's platforms. If Rotimi is doing an event and I see that I'm interested in the event, can I talk to Rotimi and say, oh, can I be part of your event? Right? So we must clearly articulate the value, the gains, what is in it for me. To be honest, even if I join because I believe strongly in the network, at the end of the day, I'm giving something and I would like something back. I'm not expecting it. And that's the thing with human psychology, right? We have gotten into it because we love it. We are, but at the end of the day, we then begin to ask ourselves, "Oh, I'm giving, and nothing is even happening." So I posted the flyer, nobody even liked it, nobody shared it on their Instagram story, nobody shared it on WhatsApp. That we didn't agree that we're going to do. We didn't agree that we're going to share your flyer, right? We said, "Come and join network." These are the goals of the network. But as a simple, because of the association, people would expectations will come into play, right? So based on that, and then if I'm networking with you and we're constantly talking and we're working on projects, I want to believe that you care enough about me as an individual and my individual and my personal success. So I would expect that because you're committed to my success, just as I am committed to your success because we're part of a network, then I want to see some of these things happen. Do you understand what I mean? I don't have to, you don't have to, but for the shared purpose. Because the stronger the individual members of a network are, the stronger the network. Yes, exactly. The strength of one becomes the strength of all. And if all are equally strong, then that is a strong space to be. So that's how I believe it goes. And me being strong, and people can see the benefits of being in that network, right? And we're talking about it. Oh, working with Rotimi, we're in the XYZ committee together of this. Thank goodness for this. And we're intentional, not just about talking about the network, but about the benefits of being in the network, each of these individual members. People then begin to ask and say, so how can I be a part of this network? I want to enjoy what you guys are enjoying, right? So it must be visible. It cannot be a perceived value. It must be a value that translates into today, tomorrow, next tomorrow. And we must honestly be very intentional about networks. And that's like, let me give you an example now. Somebody, it's really interesting, right? My Instagram DM, I'm just having so many DMs from people, and it's really interesting because I'm like, what's going on? And somebody said to me, okay, please recommend a network for me. I've just started a new job and I really want to belong to a network because I see that will help me grow. And in my head, I'm like, how do I even recommend you to a network? Some of these networks, I'm not even in them. Some of them, I'm not 100% happy with the value that I am getting. I now recommend somebody else. Of course, you might get more value from it than me because your expectations might be different. But do I want to take that on? Your disappointment. So it's really important that, again, it should be clearly spelled out. If somebody wants to get into a network, this is what you gain. This is how you get into the network. But those gains, Rotimi, honestly, there must be. It's like the curriculum, right? There's the written and then there's the unwritten curriculum. The written curriculum guides and drives, value proposition. But even in the unwritten curriculum, people now get a sense of, oh, this is what you get, and we can then add that to the added benefits. Do you get what I mean? So I really believe that we really must be clear. And that's what makes people, that clarity drives action. And that's what even makes people say, I want to be part of this. Because the action is translating into the results. And then in every network, there are different levels. It's almost like a business, right? In a business, there's the awareness phase. And then you go into this phase of growth. There's slow growth, then there's really high growth. And then what happens? You then go into the space of expansion, new product implementation, new market entry. So those are some of the stages. So even in a network, there is the awareness stage, the visibility stage, the stage of, let us grow our base, right? And in growing your base, that's where, to be honest, that visibility of what each individual member is gaining, you know, begins to show really quickly. If I am having an event, for example, and I have members of my network, I would reach out to them and say, "Oh, do you want to be part of me?" One, because I'm leveraging their audience. Two, because I'm creating visibility for each of these members of the network. And yeah, so that's yeah. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, and has brought about another question.
Oh dear. Oh
And
dear.
and the reason is it's good that you're saying this because sometimes, honestly, to be honest, I see that there will be a lot of you are building a network.
There'll be a lot
From
of
the things
what?
you've said,
You said there'll be a lot of what in building a network. I didn't hear that, Mr. Rotimi. Okay, Mr. Rotimi is frozen. right now, guys. But I mean, we're still here, still talking about the importance of a network. And everybody needs to understand that networking is really important. But before you get into a network, clearly, the same way we talked about yesterday, to get into a training, why are you going for that training? So why this network? Right? And then ask questions. It's okay to ask questions in the network and say, oh, because you're part of the network. Whether you're a fee paying member or you're not a fee paying member, as long as you're in a network, you do have the you can ask questions. Yeah, okay, Rotimi, you're back. Hello, Mr. Rotimi? Yeah. I was just saying that it's okay to ask questions where you're in a network. Don't believe that your voice is stifled. No. If your voice is stifled and you cannot speak in a network, then do you really have any business being in that network? Is my question. Welcome to the show, Mr. Olumide.
Yes, man. KK, good morning, man. Yes, Ruchimi,
Good
good morning. Good morning to our
morning.
tribe members out there. Nice to
Yeah,
be
so
here
I
once
mean,
again.
fantastic. We've been talking about making a network work, right? And it'll be great to hear your perspectives. Have you built a network, for example? How did you make it work? Okay, Mr. Rotimi is back, so I'll hand over. Mr. Rotimi, over to you.
Did you get the question?
You mean
I
me?
I stopped because you were back so that you can take
Oh,
over.
okay. No. If you got the question, just
Yes, I got
how
the
do we
question
get
from.
to clear these blind spots? Because from expectation, sorry, I directed the question to KK. So the
Okay.
expectation
Oh, I
like
didn't get
people
the
might
question.
have. Oh, okay. So I actually asked that how do we deal with blind spots? Because take for example, there was a very good illustration. You're in a network, you're in a group, you're in an association, and some things were not said, they were implied. And then people start saying, I expected this to have happened, I expected that to have happened. How do we try to make sure that blind spots are taken care of? Especially the issue of expectations.
Oh, to be honest, it's just by using that feedback. So when somebody says, "Oh, there's this," I'm expecting this, then that's feedback for us. So say, "Oh, really? Okay, you know what? Let's ask on the network if there are other people who feel this way." And then we poll people, and if we see that a critical number feels that way, perhaps that's something that we need to bring into as part of the values for the network, right? But then we need to look at the value system and say, oh, our core values are our articles of association, for example, and say, oh, you know what is driving us? And does this align? And maybe it's something that we need to bring in. So, yeah, I believe that if a critical enough member uh, member number is saying that we're expecting this, and it doesn't take away from the essence of the network, perhaps it's something to take a look at. The network doesn't have to embed it immediately, but if people are dissatisfied, then do we want a dissatisfied network? No. So I would say that look at it and tell them, oh, within the next couple of XYZ, well, let us create a committee that can make sure that this works. And then find a way to do it and make it work. That's what I would say. Back to you, Mr. Rotimi.
Thank you very much, Olushola. Welcome to the show. We are talking about making network work, and I know that Olushola has a lot to say, but I'd like him to also infuse a little bit from the issue of the mind, because I know a lot of people have their own construct in their mind. They just have this tick, and they're not about give. So how should this be in managing our disposition to ensure that we make network work? Over to you,
Uh,
Olushola.
th- Thank you, there, Ruchimi. Flying on what the question you asked, KK, I think it is good to always ask questions. We shouldn't assume because assumption more often than not goes the wrong direction. Now, making our network works, I have put it this way. If you're in a network, don't be passive, don't be parasitic, don't be prodigal, but learn to be productive. Relationship has always been, it should be a symbiotic thing. Everybody should gain. We may not gain on the same level or proportionately, but when some people are giving too much and some people are taking too much, it's no longer balanced. And when we ask questions, and of course, you need to find out what is this association all about? Like KK's article of association, what's memorandum of association? If it's something you can align with, then go in. But if not, you step aside. You don't get to the middle of the river and begin to cry that you are feeling cold. There is need to ask pertinent questions before you go. Ask in detail so that you will know whether you want to go with the network or not. But once you align or you agree to be on the network, don't be a parasite. If the network will work, the people in the network must work for the network to work. So somebody cannot be hibernating or idling away while some people are working themselves to the bones, and you expect to achieve the same thing or reap. The time of work, we are not seeing people. But when the Jews are coming out, it is then you know there are people in that association. It shouldn't be. So people should work. When there are losses, we bear it together. When there are gains, we also enjoy it together. That's what I will say. If you don't want to be in the network, don't join. If you choose to be there, then you must give your best if that network must work. Thank you very much.
In the network, you mustn't be passive, you mustn't be parasitic, you must also not be prodigal, you must be productive. I love that. Thank you, Shola. And I'll ask KK this question. The culture of silence. I think, sound like KK, obviously KK, you're assertive. So, but there's this bad culture of silence. How do we address that? Because just like Olushola said, if you're in a group, if you're in a network, if you're in an association, then you pretty much shouldn't be passive. You shouldn't be quiet in a way. How do we address this issue?
First of all, let me clap for our prof, President Prof.
Olushola is the 50 cents of education.
Oh my goodness, Olushola is fire.
Thank you, KK.
In my opinion, right, you have different profiles of individuals. Even in a friendship, right, there's some friends that are just quieter than some. There are some friends that are not as confident as others. So it is then left for the KKs and the Olusholas and the Rotimis to pull in those who may not even know that they carry value. Some people are not going to be the first to step out, which is why when we are creating projects, it's then about assigning people tasks and saying, no, we've assigned you to this responsibility because we see that you'll be valuable here. For example, there was a session, Rotimi, you had with a network that both of us belong to. And in that meeting, the fiscal meeting, somebody said, oh, I don't know why I'm here. And after we kept talking, we realized, oh, so now you know why you're here, right? So those sort of things, for some people, they really may not know. There's imposter syndrome everywhere, no matter, to be honest, how people have grown, right? And there's sometimes that maybe the person has talked before and felt that they were talked all over and they just retreat. So I truly believe that if we want the network to work, there has to be people in the network who are community builders, right? And a community builder is one who builds the community. So again, it all boils down to structure. It all boils down to what is this community about? Because it's not just a network. You're building a community, right? You're building people. You're building so many different things. So we need to say to ourselves, who are going to be the community builders of this network, or who are the community builders of this network? It is not about the owner of the network or the person who, because a lot of networks in Nigeria or in this part of the world, one person starts it, right? So, and then that person is tasked with all of these responsibilities, and that person doesn't want to give out autonomy to some people because they believe, you're not going to carry my network, so it's important that we then say, okay, you know what, who is going to do this, because it's like a business, right? They're customer services officers, I know those are tasked with, they're marketing officers, they're growth specialists, they're those in strategy and implementation, they're those in financials. So we need to have all of these areas as well, even in a network. And so when we look at the builders, then we say, okay, you know what? This person needs to make sure that everybody in the network is happy, is connected, and with that person then creates a structure around maybe a tree about how to get everybody onto the network. So that's what I would believe. I don't think anybody, of course, there are some people who want to be parasites, But guess what? The builders will find that person out and take that person out of the network if that person doesn't correct themselves. Yeah, back to you, Mr. Rotimi.
When you said they'll find that person, it reminded me of a very funny song. But I can't say the words of that song. Anyways, it's been an interesting time today, really, because I've learned a lot personally. There are times that if you're not careful, your blind spots can actually ruin you because we are assuming that there's nothing. We should ask questions, definitely. We should create an atmosphere of inclusive collaboration and all. So I'd like to thank KK. I'd like to thank Olushola for being a part of the show today. And I'd like to hear your last words, starting with Olushola Lumide, and then go to KK. Your parting shots on the topic for today.
Uh, thank you very much. I think my parting shot will be that why it is good to build a network and work to make the network functional. We shouldn't use people. Yes, we shouldn't use people, and we should let them see that they are here is for the common good. You know, there are people who gather people together and they say something else, but in their mind they have something else. And that's why Yoruba people will say, "Inú ènìyàn jìn." Wọ́n á fi wọ́n á fẹ́ jẹ̀ sí ni wọ́n á tutọ́ funfun jáde. So they have made up their mind what they want to achieve with that group of people. Before it occurs to the people, they are sort of use the people to achieve their own selfish aim. And by the time people are now raising eyebrows, saying, why this, why that, and they okay, go your way, I go my way, and all that. So we shouldn't do that. And when we are in a network, we should make our stay there count. We should always give our best, not just because of that network. You never can tell who you are still going to meet in that network, who knows somebody, who knows somebody, who knows somebody. And the power of referral can never be underestimated. Yes. Once you are known for something, that appears to be your reputation. And that's what people will be carrying all about. So be your best in any network you are and invest in people. Thank you very much.
Okay, KK.
Whoa. I don't know what else to say after Olumide has finished speaking. Let's say I concur. I concur, that's it. I concur.
Yeah.
I concur.
Good.
Okay, so now that KK has concurred, so we can call it a day. We will like to invite, and remind everyone that we have a webinar coming up Saturday and Sunday. The No Limit webinar series kicks off this weekend, and we are having the first of its kind, the mental health revolution in schools. And Olushola himself will be there. Olushola Lumide will be speaking. Omobola Laribigbe will be speaking. Rukoya Ogube will be speaking, and of course, Tayo Owoshina will be speaking. These people are ready, and I hope you're ready. Do not miss it. Saturday starts 10 a.m., I believe, and then Sunday starts 4 p.m. It's absolutely at no cost, just for you to show up. So we look forward to seeing you this weekend. I will be there, KK will be there, every one of us will be there. And please invite someone and tell someone about it. So on that note, at the count of 2, we're going to say our goodbyes. 1, 2, go.
It's always a great morning on a Good Morning Education show. Bye.
Education
Bye.
show. Bye.